Well, I see Nick.
Morning.
Howdy. There's thunderstorms rolling in, and I'm sitting outside. I'm kind of curious what's going to happen. I've got a roof over my head that goes back at least 10 feet behind me, so I think I'm all right. I shouldn't get wet.
That's part of that tropical system, and it's moving inland.
I don't know. It's coming in from the north.
Probably is. I mean, that counterclockwise motion,
It's a big system if that's what it's doing, because it's coming in from pretty much due north, which would mean that the center would be east of us somewhere.
Maybe. The eye of the storm is supposed to be passing right over me, and the wind's not even blowing outside.
Well, okay. We wouldn't be getting the same thing. It may be, I'm sure there's an effect. Yeah. We had some pretty violent sounding storms last night. We didn't go out and look at them. A lot of lightning and thunder. But
yeah. Let's see, I'm going to check the radar here on my phone.
I looked at
Jim, are you afraid of lightning and thunder?
Yeah, I mean, it's all around us. It's north of us, though. It's all north, just a little bit, about 10 miles. I looked on the radar a while ago before I got on. Yeah, it's about 10 miles north of us right now.
Yeah, that's you right there near the top.
Yeah, yeah.
You got a pretty good storm there near you.
Yeah, and we're just barely under it. It's across the river. And it was like that last night, too. And it's going, I think it was going kind of from northwest toward the southeast.
And this is me. I'm the blue dot, if you can see that. So that center rotation is going to come right. It's not over land yet. It's a really poorly organized storm system. But all the rain is to the east and north of me. It rained here yesterday a little bit, but not much. I mean, all the rain is the other way. See, Mississippi, Alabama.
Hello, Pastor Paul. Preacher Paul, that's what your thing is. I guess you're hearing all the thunder around us too, aren't you, Paul?
Yeah. It's been raining all night.
Pardon? Go ahead.
I said it's been raining all night.
Yeah, it was lively last night. I don't know how much it kept us up. I heard lots of storms going through. And it looked like we were barely on the southern edge of what went through when I looked at it on the radar.
Come here. Let's go outside.
Well, you're getting ready to get blasted from what I can tell. You're in, is it Carroll or Carrollton? Where are you?
Carrollton, yeah.
And it's northeast of Louisville?
It's halfway between Cincinnati and Louisville. Okay. If you see Louisville and Cincinnati and go halfway on the river, there's a place where it bends up and goes kind of northwest, and that's where Madison, Indiana is. Yeah, and we're about 15 miles east of there.
Yeah, by 8:30, you got yellow and red stuff supposedly coming at you. Moving to the southeast.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing this turned around facing the wall, and just right before I turned it on, I thought it might be interesting to see what goes on behind me this morning.
Yeah, that's a pretty view behind you there.
It was really interesting. Still is a little bit. Earlier this morning, the clouds were down in the hills, and you could see it really defined where all the valleys were because the clouds were down in the valleys.
It's called fog, right?
Yeah, well, clouds, fog, same thing. It's really funny. Sometimes when I'm not sure what the weather conditions are. I guess when it gets colder than it has been and the river water is still warm, I guess, is when this happens. But there'll be clouds form on the river. and that whole valley across there is a cloud. It's all white, and you can see across the top of it.
Yeah.
It's really interesting the way that happens sometimes. All right, let me see if I can get my share screen on.
I don't see any gray hair on your head, Jim. You mustn't have your crown.
It's all right here. I know when I started shaving my head when I was maybe about 40 years old, and I was salt and pepper then, and I'd shaved it all the time. And then when I had the heart attack in 2008, I'd have been 53. And I couldn't raise my arms because I had the quadruple bypass and I had all those stitches in my chest. I couldn't raise my arms for a while to shave. So it all grew back. And when it came back, it was all white. It went from being mostly dark in those, I guess, maybe 13 years or so. It went from being mostly dark with salt and pepper to being almost all white. And that's the way it is now. Don't have much dark hair left.
Yeah.
All right, Paul. I guess you shave your head. How long have you been shaving your head?
Oh, on and off for 15 years, probably.
What is your hair? Does your hair still have any color?
Not much.
How often do you have to
I've
shave
always
it?
been light brown to gray.
I've thought of before about just letting everything grow out and pretend like I'm Santa Claus, and wear red clothes all the time.
How often do you have to shave your head to keep it however you want? I mean,
I'm gonna let me plug this radio in. I can barely hear. Give me a minute. Got to plug in different speakers.
I've got to shave every other day, Nick.
really? Okay. Huh.
Otherwise, it's more of a hassle. I won't say it's hard, but it's a lot easier if you shave it every other day.
It's kind of like I shave under here, although I'm overdue, but I shave that about every other day. Just to, instead of having everything grow down my neck, I don't like that look,
Right.
And with the warm weather that's moved in, I'm reconsidering keeping this, which my wife would like me to get rid of anyway.
You all had some weather too, didn't you, last night?
Yeah, I was telling Jim this tropical storm, which is very disorganized. It brought some rain in yesterday, not much wind. It's all overcast.
Yeah, Greg.
And wet outside, but there's no wind blowing. In the center of the storm, center of rotation, best I could tell, it's going to move right over me, but it's right at the coastline. It's not even on land yet. It's dumping a lot of rain in Mississippi and Alabama.
Link. Let me send you another. Well, no, it should have been the same. It had to be the same. Everybody else is on. Okay. No. Let me send it to you again. Okay. I'll send it to you again. I'm going to send it to Landis's email. All right.
I'm trying to figure out on this.
I'll send it to
my
Landis.
background picture, not when I'm live, but when I when I kill the video, you stop the video. See, it comes up this right here. You see that, Nick?
I see it.
That's a little old.
Yeah, it's a little past due, huh?
And I don't know what I did to get that or how I changed that.
It's a video you're trying to play?
No, it's just like right there. I stop the video if I walk out, you know.
Uh-huh. Huh.
Like Kevin's got a background there, but I don't know where you set that.
Yeah, I don't fool with the background.
That's my Facebook picture or Gmail. I think it's Gmail account picture.
Your Gmail account?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's not the picture on my Gmail account.
All right. That was Greg calling, and he's apparently has the wrong link. He was looking at a blank page, so I had to send it to him again. Now, let's see. Let me plug. All right. Well, it's going to get started. It's 12 minutes after, and we haven't got started yet. So, are you all about ready?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right. Father God, we thank you for another week that you've blessed each one of us in the ways, whatever ways we've been blessed. And it's a blessing just to be alive and to serve you. And we ask you to continue to give us knowledge and perseverance to get through this Bible reading in a year and to learn from it and get closer to you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right.
Amen.
Let me do, where's my little arrow thing? I got to move the pictures over to the other side so I can go forward. Well, I thought I was going to. I don't see. Well, I have a timeline. Let me go back to. Oh. It's turning the television off. I was going to use both screens, and when I turned around, I moved that monitor over there. It's getting ready to turn off. I'm having technical difficulties this morning.
It could be the operator.
Could be. Greg got here. All right. Well, anyway, I guess we'll skip the timeline. Actually, it's the same timeline basically as we had for Psalms. It was generally, let's say, around 1000 BC is when the Proverbs were mostly written. Most of them were written by Solomon. It's the wisdom of Solomon generally is this falls into that category. So I mean that's the basic. It's wisdom literature, and it's quite different than what the Psalms were. I had a hard time going through the recaps on the Psalms, and we'll see how we do on Proverbs, but I think they're more, I guess, more relevant. I think the wisdom in the Proverbs is almost contemporary in most cases. I mean, some of it is dated, but I would say more than half of it applies to where we are today. So let me do my share screen thing again, and I'm going to do a different share screen if I can find that. Get my technical difficulties behind me. All right. Do y'all see the text there that's moving up and down?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Morning, guys.
Morning, Greg.
Morning, Greg.
Morning,
Tigers, Greg.
You know it's me. It's Road Dad.
Yeah, the tide's rolling in some heavy rain at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah. So what about you? That was my next question.
We're good. We're cloudy, no rain at the moment, and we're in a good place with the weather. So hope you guys stay safe.
It's real cloudy here in Carrollton, and it's almost dark right now. And I think we're about to get hammered. But anyway, we've last Saturday we still had one set of Psalms left in our reading, and the focus was on Psalm 150. And the discussion question about that was that there were various ways explained in that psalm to praise the Lord, and why is praising the Lord so important? And it mentioned praising him in his sanctuary, in his mighty firmament, in his mighty acts, in his excellent greatness, and to praise him by sounding the trumpet, the lute, the harp, the timbrel, stringed instruments and flutes, loud cymbals, and clashing cymbals. That kind of sounds like what happens out at the Bethel Church out in California. Lots of musical instruments there, and big orchestra. And you know, most of us smaller churches don't have the resources to have that much going on, but we still try to do the same thing in today. So I mean, that psalm is probably as applicable or more applicable than most of the psalms we had. So that's one that you know, I mentioned the Proverbs being contemporary. Psalm 150 is a psalm that was contemporary. And I think praising the Lord has always been important. And musical praise and worship is just a part of doing that. People tend to think of, when you say praise and worship, to just focus on the music. But that's not necessarily the only way. And it's not the only way to praise God. You can praise God through your giving and through your works and just through your prayer and all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be music, but there's something in our human souls that makes music connect. I don't know. I think I may have talked with Nick about the Alive Inside organization, where they minister to Alzheimer's patients by playing music that was popular when people were about 20 years old. That there seems to be something in your brain when you're just reaching maturity that stores that kind of music in the same area that some of your other memories are. So when you play music from that period, it wakes the brain back up, and they start remembering all kinds of things. And there are people all over the country that go to like assisted living places and nursing homes and things like that will play music from the 30s and 40s. And I guess it's getting up now, you know, we're getting older, where they're going to start playing music from the 50s and 60s and 70s to wake up that part of the brain. I don't think that it's permanent, but yeah, I've seen videos where they see people slump down basically in a vegetative state, and they start playing, you know, the 1920s music, and they come alive and start talking and recognize people, and it just wakes their brain up. So there's a lot in music. I think God has made us that way, that there is something in music that makes a spiritual connection. And of course, that can be a good spiritual connection or a bad spiritual connection. And by having what we call praise and worship music in your mind today, that makes that more likely to be a positive spiritual connection. And how is that tied to the thankfulness in Psalm 136? I missed that part of that question. I didn't put that in there, so I don't know the answer to that. Anybody else got any thoughts on that? I know Kevin, you're, I know you're not necessarily involved in worship music, but I think you may have family that is, and I know you've done, you go to a church where that's real important. And I know that Paul actually sings sometimes. I've seen him do that. Anybody got anything they want to add about
I just think music, I guess, is more or less key to your soul, to kind of wake up your spirit, opens up your spirit to God and connects. I think there's a lot of connection through God and you in music. if you listen to it and if you let it minister to you, that's where I feel God the most. I put it to you that way.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that. And that's part. I think most every church has music involved in their service. Even old, like the Catholic churches and churches like that have some music involved. And it seems to be a real common thing throughout the body of Christ. I see Paul's finger up there. You want to say something? Well, let me see if I can unmute you.
Oh, I got it.
I thought I saw your mouth moving. Okay.
Yeah, I was muted. I'm okay.
All right. You can. Okay. Well, let's go on to the next. The next day we get into the Proverbs. What three components of the book of Proverbs is described in the Bible guide? I had a hard time figuring that out because they didn't really describe them in that guide as components of the book of Proverbs. But I think what they were getting at was that the Proverbs contain wisdom, instruction, and knowledge. And where do we need to see that in the church today? Basically, I don't see how you can keep from saying through the whole thing, everywhere in the church, but particularly you need to see it from the pulpit and in any teaching position and leadership in every way. I think that's the neighbor's air conditioner just came on. Does that sound bother you guys? That air conditioner just came on.
I don't hear it.
I don't hear it.
Okay, good. It's over there a little ways, but the fan just started running on their heat pump or air conditioner. All right. The second, so on Monday, we focused on Proverbs 7, 1-18. And the question is compared to 1 Corinthians 10-12, what parallels and contrasts do you see? And, of course, like most of the Proverbs, it's a comparison between good and bad, keeping my word, not keeping my word. And in 1 Corinthians, it says, him who thinks he stands, take heed lest he fall. No temptation has overcome you except such as in common to man. And you get down into the lower part, the verses 10-18 in Proverbs 7, it's talking about a young man that went out and got seduced by a woman who was being a harlot. I think that's the one while her husband's away. She went out and seduced him and brought him in. There goes some lightning. Did y'all see that?
I heard it.
I heard that. That didn't sound like an air conditioning unit. Unless it blew up.
Yeah, that was pretty close because you notice the lightning was maybe a second ahead of the thunder. So that's like it's within 1,000 feet.
I was going to say, supposedly your hair stands up as a warning, but you won't have a warning, Jim.
No, I won't. Yeah, I've heard that before too. I've known two people that have been hit by lightning and survived in my life.
Wow.
That seems amazing. I wouldn't want to be
possible. There. It's certainly possible.
Well, anyway, the young man in Proverbs, in 1 Corinthians 10, it's talking about God is faithful, will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you're able, but with the temptation will also make a way of escape. And I think we, as New Testament believers, will stand on that verse a lot of times. And when you hear, I've heard that a lot of times. This guy here in Proverbs didn't stand strong. He looks like according to what they're saying, it doesn't actually say that he went in with her, does it? It stopped.
No.
Yeah. So maybe he did. Maybe he did withstand the temptation. So maybe I'm jumping to a conclusion there. Anybody want to add to that or subtract from it or disagree?
I find that often the woman is always the so-called bad guy in these proverbs.
Well, I don't know.
I know. I read it.
Well, yeah, but it's certainly putting the. She may be the temptress, but I think the point is giving in to temptation or resisting it, and it's that way. The wisdom in all that you see. You hear the rain? Maybe it's not as loud as the air conditioner, so maybe you don't hear it. It just started raining now too. Um, but anyway, both parties are certainly being sinful, no doubt about that. And I've never really looked at the Proverbs as being one-sided on that. The whole point is to resist. And there's certainly bad guys too. It's raining pretty hard now.
Yeah, what was that movie? That movie, The Jagged Edge, that kind of follows that proverb.
I gotta go turn my radio up.
That was the movie with I think it's Glenn Close, and she was the bad guy, and of course they both were bad, and then Michael Douglas.
All right, I didn't hear what you were talking about because
I said the movie The Jagged Edge was kind of like a movie of a guy making a bad choice.
Yeah, probably lots of movies about that.
Yeah, lots of movies. Yeah.
There are always consequences, whether they're consequences in this life or the next. There's always going to be consequences. All right, Tuesday's reading. Did I interrupt you?
No, go ahead. Good.
Oh, wait a minute. Go to verse 12 in Proverbs, and it says, now in the streets, now in the squares, at every corner she lurks. That's where it is. Lurks at every corner. Well,
I'm sure that there are places today that are just like that.
Yeah.
And in the visible spiritual world and in the physical world and the spiritual world both. Those temptations are always hiding right around every corner. And I mean, sadly, even in churches sometimes. I mean, there are bad things that go on in churches. So I mean, it's not like we're all immune to it.
Yeah, right.
I think that's something that I believe there was a book maybe 20 years ago about Every Man's Battle, I think was the name of it. And there are Christian counseling services for those kinds of things because they know that we're all susceptible. It's probably the biggest temptation that there is. And last week I talked a little bit about getting into this book I'm reading I'm putting on my YouTube channel also, The Christian in Complete Armor, and it's a focus on Ephesians 6:10 through 17, 18, where Paul talks about putting on the full armor of God. And it's 1,200 pages of deep dive into 7 or 8 verses in the Bible. So far I've read on the air maybe 30 or 40 pages, and it's all talking about being strong in the Lord. And there's been plenty of allusions to that very same thing, that the sin in our minds, particularly related to lust, is more prevalent than any of us would want to admit. And it's probably the hardest thing to control. So it's something that, like I was mentioning in that book, I don't know, Paul, if you remember who wrote it, but I think the title, pardon?
I don't remember.
You remember the book though? I think it was Every Man's Battle, I believe was the name of it. Probably in the mid-90s or something like that. Maybe before that. But anyway, it's something that's pretty doggone common. Now that came from that direction, so it's not all behind me now. That thunder came from south of me. All right, Proverbs 10. This is on our Tuesday reading. What are the effects of wisdom that are seen in these proverbs? Why do you think wisdom and foolishness have such a big effect on our lifestyle? Man, that's an easy question to answer. But the effects is it makes a glad father, delivers us from death, makes us wise if we gather in summer, blessings on the head of the righteousness, the memory of the righteous is blessed. That means people, I think that's talking about people are going to remember you as one is blessed. And the wise heart is going to receive commands from the Lord. And I guess he's going to pay attention to them. It's probably the more important thing. And he who walks with integrity walks securely. And that's true. If you're walking in wisdom and being righteous and doing the right thing all the time, you don't have to worry about something jumping up in your past that's going to, or at least in your recent past or in your wise and righteous past, that's going to jump up and bite you. I think for those of us who were adults before we became committed to the Lord, there's probably all kinds of skeletons in our closet. I certainly wouldn't want to run for president and have everything laid out in front of the world that I did.
Right. Me too.
Yeah. So why do you think wisdom and foolishness have such a big effect on our lifestyle? I mean, I think that's it. If we're wise, we don't worry about things that may affect us. If we're foolish, we're probably paranoid all the time. So it's really going to change the way you act. The wind is blowing. I can see out that direction that the rain is falling toward my back.
Yep. It's at the front. I showed you on a radar.
Well, it's the reason I'm saying that is my back's getting a little bit wet. And like I said, I'm probably 10 feet from the edge of the roof, and I'm 8 feet from the screens back there. And it's sort of like a little spray of water. It's not rain. It's being filtered through the screens, I guess. I don't see any water on the computer. Yeah, I do. There's water droplets on the computer screen.
So let me ask you, are you being wise or foolish sitting that close to that word?
Well, I do a lot of foolish things just to be interesting, I think.
You're so smart, Nick.
I think there's 3 more letters Jim wants to put at the end of that word, smart. So. I don't want my friend to get harmed by that weather. You know?
Hey, letters are words.
I'm going to say it's lightening up. It's becoming less rainful. I don't know about the lightning. Anyway, Wednesday, we read through Proverbs 13 as our focus. It was what makes you rich or poor. And everything goes back to wisdom in Proverbs. And how is it reflected in the world today? Nick was alluding to some of this before we started in those text messages about not speaking quickly and keeping your mouth shut so that people don't know that how dumb you are or how unwise you are, and that they can assume that you're wise if you don't say anything. And we do Zoom meetings like this for work. It's been a while since we've done it, hasn't it, Nick? And we haven't done one of these in a long time.
Yeah, I think we're kind of like the forgotten remote engineers.
Yeah, we used to do these things. And
till it comes to a performance review.
Well, I mean, some of the group text messages we send for work, though, Some of them you will see comments or even original messages that, you know, I'll see one, I'm not going to mention any names, but I'll see some emails or responses to questions that say maybe you bring up or one of the other guys brings up. And some of the responses, I look at who makes it and I don't even have to read it.
You know who it is.
Some of them just, you know, they're not going to be right. And,
well, or it's just, yeah, it's just, yeah. Well, right or wrong, it's somebody's opinion of something or thoughts. And I like doing that to get input, you know, as a check on myself.
Oh, yeah,
we
yeah.
We get into Proverbs about, you know, a wise person, I guess, you know, seeks the counsel of many, you know.
Well, that's not the part I'm talking about. I'm talking about some of the comments that come back are sometimes real questionable. And I just sort of shake my head and go on.
And some, yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I know what you're saying. And then some don't respond at all. So are they being thought a fool?
Well, at least we think people who don't respond, we don't get a bad opinion of them.
Yeah, but then if we're working at, you know, the whole idea of the way we work is, you know, the many are wiser than the individual, right?
Yeah.
So the reason I quit sending to peer review, which is multiple people, right? Dozens. I have a select few because those select few are the ones whose comments I respect the most.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't,
you know?
It's been a long time since I've sent out a message to the whole group. Yeah. Mine are always just a few.
I'll do that if I want to share information. I know that's maybe factual information.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you and I have just about the same list too. You've noticed that. Pretty
similar. What is it? One of the admin girls said, Jim and Nick, it's the same guy. On work stuff. It's the same guy.
Well, then you're smart. You're smart.
Well, right? I think so. I don't know about everybody else.
I'd say maybe wise about things. So, and part of my calling or my duty to my employer and my peers is to share my wisdom, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's become my only focus, I think. That's kind of what I do. I'm reviewing and peering and trying to mentor people. And I don't know if you've done this, Nick, but I've picked out a few people that I won't. I just tell them don't send me any more of their reports to look at because they don't listen. And
I'm really not doing peer reviews. I'm just focusing on doing hurricane assignments.
Yeah. Yeah.
Driving 4 hours out and, you know.
Yeah. Well, I've had a few that I've given up on.
You know, you gotta move on. I think that falls under the fool part, right? When they're fooled.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you know, it's like
listen. It's on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just don't call me. Don't call me when you got to get ready for your deposition for some wisdom. It's too late then.
Yeah, that's right. All right.
Anyway.
Let's see. Thursday. Proverbs 15. Hell and destruction are before the Lord. Hell and destruction are before the Lord. So how much more the hearts of men? What do you think is meant by this verse, and how can we apply it to our lives? Hell and destruction are before the Lord, so how much more the hearts of sons of men? Yeah, my answer to that is that the choice of hell or heaven is in your heart. And I don't know. Anybody else got any thoughts on that? Okay. Go on to the next one. Last one. Yesterday's reading. Proverbs 18 was the focus. And they want us to compare it to Psalm 89. And what should we be doing with our mouths as seen in Psalm 89? In contrast, how does the fool use his words? And in Psalm 89, it says, we'll sing the mercies of the Lord forever. And that's the basic theme of those two verses there. And it says, in contrast, how does the fool use his words? He rages against wise judgment. His lips enter into contention. His mouth calls for blows. A fool's mouth is his destruction, and his lips are the snare of his soul. And that's kind of what we were talking about. Foolish people say stupid things. And if they're not
more often than not, I would say. I'm very capable of and have said foolish things. But
yeah, me too. Me too.
I like, oh gee, why did I say that? You know.
Yeah.
But fools never learn. You know, they, like you said, they rebuke wisdom. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right. Well, we're done with that part. Now we had quite a bit of outside discussion before we got started because it took me a while to get myself organized. And let me finish with prayer, and then we'll turn this off we'll go back to full screen so we can talk better. Father God, we thank you for our discussion of your word today. And I ask you to give us strength. And I want to encourage these 4 guys here that are with me to continue faithfully reading your word, and be back next week. We love you, Lord. Thank you in Jesus' name. All right, let me stop.
Yes.
All right. Paul's got a background picture. Michael, I see you're on there. Have you been here the whole time? I didn't see that.
I got here about 30 minutes late.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't see you were on there. I guess when I'm on the share screen, it has a limited number of guys it shows. You missed the beginning, but I sat through a thunderstorm while we were doing this, and I thought that'd be
nice.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. There were some lightning flashes right behind me, right real close at the beginning. The reading
is the river up high?
Not yet. I'm sure it's going to be. It's been raining a lot.
I must see fog back there then.
Yeah, it's real. That's rain. It's raining. Yeah, it's cloudy, foggy, and rain both. And sometimes it's that way. It was clearer when we started, but it certainly, since it started raining, when I started, it wasn't raining. So it wasn't doing that. I started to say I've been reading this book, and I've got a long it's like 29 minutes introduction, reading through the forewords and preface and talking about the history of who the author was and how the book evolved from a 1655 book to a 1986 revision. And then I started reading, and the first few videos I did, I was trying to do them live, and I was doing them at 9 o'clock, and it was just too dark. So I went back and redid, and I also found out, doing a little bit of study, that people generally don't stay on videos more than 10 minutes most of the time. So I went back, and the first reading I did was probably 18 minutes long, and it was too dark. So I split that up into 2, and instead of doing it live, I recorded it and then posted it. I think it went a lot better. And I'm trying with the videos to add in interesting backgrounds like what's behind me right now. And the first 3 were river related. One was when I was standing out there on the bank, and a long set of barges and towboat went by, and I kind of planned it that way so that would be in the background. And then when I went back and redid the first 2, or the first one that I split into 2, I actually went down to the riverbank, and the first one I did was just showing the river, and nothing was going on. But I stopped it and started doing the second one, and I could see downstream. I could see downstream about 3 miles, and that's where the bend in the river is at Carrollton, where the Kentucky River joins the Ohio River, and it turns I think a little bit north there. I could see down to that bend, and it's about 3 miles away, and I could see that a tow of barges was coming around the corner. So I thought, okay, I'm going to wait and see what this is like when I'm standing here at the river at that same level when the barges go by. So I messed around for about 30 minutes, went over, and I had gone over before I got started messing around in the weeds and stuff that were growing along the riverbank, making sure I was staying far away because there's lots of snakes out there. And in the time between doing those videos, I went over to where I had been before, and I heard some rattling in the roots of a tree that I had looked up in when I was there, thinking this would be a great place for a snake to drop down on my head. And when I went back the second time, I heard the rattling, and the snake slithered out of the roots. And I don't know if he'd been up in the tree or not, but I don't know what kind of snake it was either. Just a snake. As far as I'm concerned, all snakes are bad. But yeah, I did encounter one snake down there. But anyway, I did my second one with the barge going by, and I was using my cell phone to record it, and I took a post and set it on a post with a mount for my camera, and the barge went by faster than I could read it, so I tried to turn it, and it worked the first time to track the barge going down the river while I was reading, or up the river. It was going upstream. And the second time I turned it for the third view, it fell off the mount. So I got a little bit of a shake and a rattle in there, but it was, I think I'm adding interest in the background because I'm not a professional reader. I'm not certainly not a good audiobook reader, but yeah, I'm trying to add some background that may interest people, just see them. But yesterday I did the fourth reading, and over there on the corner of the house, there's a robin that had built a nest on top of my gutter downspout. And I took a 2x4 and mounted my camera on the 2x4 and laid it up against the gutter where it was focused in on the nest. And then I did a Zoom meeting with myself. I put I had both screens on, and I was doing the reading, and I had the camera on the birds on the nest. And it was real interesting watching the birds because there were 4 babies in there. And I guess both parents were bringing in and putting the worms right into their mouth while I was reading. It had nothing at all to do, and none of my background has anything to do with the reading I'm doing. But it was really interesting to me when I couldn't look at it when I was doing the reading. But I went back and looked at it and watched those birds, and it was really fascinating having a close-up view, and it was like full screen, you know, of the birds in a foot square, say. So they were real close because I had it focused right on top of the nest, and it was real neat. So I had about 7 or 8 minutes of reading that had that in it. And I think I see, it's kind of dark, hard to see right now, but I believe one of the parents is sitting over the babies right now.
What is the nest then you said? What is it? What is
the robins?
The nest?
They're robins.
But where is the nest?
It's on my gutter downspout. You know, the eave hangs out 16 or 18 inches. And the gutter's out there, and the gutter downspout comes down and turns over and attaches.
And it's on
to the
top
house.
of that.
It's where it attaches to the house on top of that.
Gotcha.
Look at the video, you'll see it.
Okay.
It's real interesting.
That's cool. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was really neat watching it. So what I'm gonna do with those is try to come up with something interesting to have in the background every time I do it. At the rate I'm going, reading less than 10 minutes at a time, it's going to take me 500 videos to get through this. It's going to be hard to come up with 500 different things to put in the background, but I've got all kinds of ideas One of them is I want to go down to Bowling Green where my brother lives. He's got two motorcycles. One of them's a Harley Davidson, one of them's on the Goldwing. And I think I want to have him. I want to strap my phone to the backrest on his Harley and have him go for a ride with that running. Do the same thing I did with the birds, and do a Zoom meeting and just show what it's like to ride on a Harley Davidson. Have the noise in the background and everything.
That would be cool because I know it's actually driving one. I'm sure is a lot scarier than a video.
Well, yeah, the reason I want to do the Harley, the Goldwing is not much different than driving a car. I've had two of those, and yeah, I mean they're real smooth and quiet, and it's like riding in a convertible, except you're more exposed. The Harley is different. You almost feel like there's a real masculine thing about riding a Harley.
What do you think about those late model three-wheeler bikes?
Late model what?
Three-wheelers that have the two wheels.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I guess if you don't know how to ride a motorcycle, or if you're not comfortable riding a heavy motorcycle in particular, like a big Harley or a Goldwing or something like that, it makes you more comfortable. I've never driven one, but from when they first came out, I was studying about them, and they're not as stable. I mean, they're more stable when you're stopping, or when you're going around a curve slow, but it's not as a motorcycle grips the road, and that leaning you do going around corners, you can go around corners faster in a motorcycle than you can in a car, and because of the way the tires are, they're gripped and they're soft rubber all the way around. And on the three-wheelers, you don't get the grip on the lean. When you go around the curve, the tires, the back tires in particular, will want to slide out, from what I understand, like they would in a car. Whereas on a motorcycle, they grip a whole lot better because you're leaning into the curve. I don't know if I'd want one or not. I quit riding because Kim's sister's husband got run over by a tractor trailer on his. And she didn't. Kim was not comfortable with me going out on the bike without her. She didn't mind if she was riding too, but she didn't want me riding by myself because she dealt with her sister being a widow, and that was hard. And she didn't want to be a widow. She didn't mind if we both got killed, but she didn't want to be a widow. So I sold it and bought a motorhome.
Yeah.
Hey Nick.
Yeah.
What did you call those three-wheelers?
I didn't. I just said the three-wheeler types. There's a couple of different styles out there. There's one. I have a fella that lives about a mile or so from me. That has a kind that has literally it has a cover over it. It's more of a recumbent seat. I mean, you're driving it almost like a car.
Is that a Can-Am? Can-Am manufactures. There's a company called Can-Am that manufactures them, and you can get any big motorcycle converted into a trike.
It's a very sporty looking trike, but I don't think it's a conversion of a two-wheel bike. I think it's just its own make and model.
Yeah,
I think it's sold by what's the maker that has the warrior, Native American warrior emblem?
Indian?
Is that Apache or Indian? It's
Indian?
Called Indian.
Indian makes it. Well, if it's an Indian, it's probably a conversion. Indian is real similar to Harley Davidson. It's a similar motorcycle to Harley. I don't know.
I think it's made by them, but I'm not positive.
Okay. Yeah.
See, I know a man in Alabama that used to make them out of Volkswagen engines, 3-wheelers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those too. The Volkswagen with the single wheel, like a chopper front wheel.
Yeah.
I remember those.
And you know, Al Copeland, the late Al Copeland, who founded Popeye's Fried Chicken, right? He was from New Orleans. He used to ride around his groupies on what they called a Boss, and it had a Corvette engine. It was a 2-wheel motorbike with a Corvette engine, and the tires were like a full-size automobile tire. It was a massive 2-wheel motorbike.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know if it was a Harley that was converted, but they used the engine out of a Corvette.
Wow.
Yeah. You don't see a lot of them, but he used to tool around town on one of those. He was quite a character. I was sorry to see him pass away. He was still in his 50s.
I think I've seen articles about those kind of motorcycles. I'm not aware I've ever seen one in real life.
Yeah. But lately, most motorized, I'm seeing a lot of motorized bicycles.
Yeah.
My daughter and I rode on a trail in Missouri. We were in Missouri last week, and there's a trail up there called the Katy Trail. It's over 200 miles long. We just rode 17 miles on our bikes, and there were a few people on the trail. And after I saw with these fat tired bicycles, and you can't even see there's a motor hidden in the framework. Battery powered motor, and they just go.
Yeah.
Is that what the guys were doing in the Olympics?
No, in the Tour de France.
Yeah,
with some cheaters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some master bike builder came up with this motor, and when they would go around a curve or have to do a climb, they could engage this thing secretly.
Yeah.
That ain't fair.
yeah, it's called cheating.
Yeah.
Kind of like what Lance Armstrong did for years until he finally had to. He wasn't using a motor; he was using blood doping or something. But anyway,
did I tell you about Lance Armstrong? You know who his dad was?
You did tell me, yeah.
Lance Allworth. If you remember.
I remember Lance Allworth.
Lance Allworth played. It was a split in for the Dallas Cowboys, and he got the Cowboys released him. He was a great player, but they cut him because he got some 14-year-old girl pregnant, and that 14-year-old girl was Lance
Armstrong's mother.
The biker. What was his name?
Lance Armstrong.
Lance Armstrong. I wanted to say Allworth. Lance.
That was his mother, huh?
Yeah. That was his mother.
Yeah. Well, the dad Allworth played for Dallas and for San Diego, I think.
Yeah, he ended up going to San Diego after Dallas cut him.
I didn't know that's why they cut him. I remember you telling me that.
And it was I lived in Dallas, so I'm kind of familiar with it. The girl was the son of there's an area close to SMU where it's all big old historic homes, multi-million-dollar mansions, and it was a daughter of one of those people, and there was no way that this guy was gonna let her marry him.
14. Wow.
I said, wait a minute, not Lance Allworth. I'm confused now. Was it Lance Allworth or Lance Rensel?
No, it was Lance Allworth. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I was.
Because he played. I think he played most of his years in San Diego.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Lance Rensel. I know the name. I can't picture who he is. Was he?
He played for the Steelers, I think. Didn't he?
Rensel. I know the name. I can't place.
Yeah, I think he might have played for the Steelers.
Yeah.
And they were about the same time.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say Lance Rensel also played for the Cowboys.
He was
as well as Minnesota. He's from the University of Oklahoma.
No, I can't. I'm not sure which one of those Lances it was. She ended up marrying somebody else. That's why he has a different name, Lance Armstrong. She married some guy named Armstrong and didn't stay married to him very long. But he adopted the child, who was, probably 5 or 6 years old by then. And this guy she married adopted him, and that's how he got the last name Armstrong.
It says Terry Armstrong was his, well, I'm looking at an article about Lance Armstrong, but it's saying it named a Terry Armstrong and somebody else. I don't think this is saying Lance Allworth was his father.
Well, it's not. It wasn't. Wasn't real advertised knowledge. I don't know how you want to say that. It wasn't.
It says Terry. It says his biological father was Eddie Gunderson.
Well, that's a different story than what I heard. I don't know.
And I heard his stepfather was Terry Armstrong, and he took Terry Armstrong's last name. But the mother did divorce.
Maybe it was a rumor that I don't need to spread. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, you might want to check that before you repeat that.
I don't even remember where I heard it. It might have been just something under the hush hush when I was in Dallas.
What I do know is that ESPN special on Lance Armstrong was very interesting because he was very talented as a teenager in what he was doing. I think he was running distance races, and he was beating people in their 20s who were like the leading runners. And I think he got into cycling afterwards, but he was extremely cocky. He was so successful and good, talented, and he was very cocky. And I think it was encouraged by his mother too.
Nick.
Yeah.
There's an article that says that he was named after Lance Rensel.
He was named after him. Yeah.
Lance. Yeah. Said his parents were divorced in 1973 when Lance was 2. The next year, his mother married Terry Armstrong, who adopted him.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe I got the facts wrong, but the general thoughts. There was a connection.
But then Terry Armstrong was a disciplinarian and was harsh on him, is what this is saying. And he admits he was a taskmaster and didn't tell him he loved him enough, but he did keep his last name, Armstrong. Anyway, it's a good story if you're ever interested in it. I don't know if it's like a 2 or 3 part ESPN special. They do a good job with those things. But I wanted to ask you all this: when you were reading the Proverbs and passages relating to wisdom and fools, and then again, you don't have to say, but did any people come to mind excluding yourself? I mean, did you have people in your life, either family or friends or acquaintances, that can't, because it did to me. There were certain people, especially on the fool side, that kind of came to mind for me.
That's a good question. That's a real good question.
And these are people, I guess, 2 of the people, it's like, one was very intelligent, had a lot of potential, everything going for him, and just by bad decisions and bad habits, isn't where he could have been in life. He's not without blessings, but just I don't know. I had a couple of people that, what, like the first guy I'm saying, I mean, he's making it, he's there, we're the same age, but I'm going to be able to stop working full time, and I don't know when he'll be able to, because of some of his decisions. The other one I'm thinking of is in much worse shape, is younger than me, but in his late 50s, and has to rebuild his life. I mean, literally.
I hadn't thought of it while I was reading it, but
these are things in each person's mind. It's of their own doing, personally, you know how, again, Proverbs say, you know how you stay away from fools, right? You know, they're not going to have any wisdom about them. I kind of feel like, you know, I kind of feel that way toward both of them. It's like one of them, you know, both of them can be pleasant to be around, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if they, you know, I don't know if I should try to stay away or not. You know, so.
But then is grace coming in the picture there? Grace.
Yeah, grace plays a role, I guess. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was, when you brought this up, I'm thinking of one particular person that maybe when he was young, it seemed like he made decisions that were foolish, and to some people people, particularly people that didn't know him very well, would think that he wasn't very wise and wasn't very smart, but he tended to be wise in a good old boy way, and ended up working in a factory all his life and retired recently. And because he was so wise in the sense that he didn't do impulsive things, and he did his retirement planning the same way. He worked in a factory all his life and ended up retiring extremely comfortable because he just let his retirement over the 40, 50 years that he worked, 40 years, I guess, the 40 years that he worked, just let it sit there and accumulate. And now he's probably making more money in his retirement years than he made when he worked, and very comfortable and doing whatever he wants to do. So, you know, you may, on the surface, sometimes we make judgments that maybe aren't valid with what's going on inside the person, with the real person. And he might have been, I'm thinking back, and he probably was one of those people that just kept his mouth shut most of the time. So wiser than we think, I think, sometimes.
Knowing when to open it and when to keep it closed is where wisdom comes in.
Yeah. I know his situation well, and I know his retirement investments are 5 times what mine are, and I and I made a lot more money than I spent it all. You know, I didn't invest as wisely.
Yeah, but I bet your life story is a heck of a lot more interesting.
Well,
I mean, you know, you gotta experience things, you know.
Yeah, I guess that's true. We had our oldest son's birthday's tomorrow, and we took him out to dinner last night. And when we were leaving, I said, "Don't expect to get anything when we die. We're spending all your inheritance right now.
Yeah.
We're spending it now."
Man.
Yeah, we made the reason I said that is we made reservations for a month in Florida in January. So we're going to be down there actually 6 weeks. So we're going to be snowbirds for the first time, and because of that, the place we reserved is on a lake, and so yesterday we went shopping for 2 kayaks, and we decided what we wanted, but we didn't buy it yet. But you know, we told them we're spending all your inheritance. We're going shopping for a boat.
I got my kayak. I'm just waiting to use it.
I was thinking you're the one that told me you carry that with you on jobs that are on.
I have just a couple of times. I had a job after one of the hurricanes some years back, and I didn't have my kayak, but I did have my kayak. I had a canoe.
Do you use it?
I've used my canoe on 1 or 2 jobs. The kayak, I haven't used it on a job, but I bought it under the guise that it would be used for work, to access, you know, basically structures on the water, camps, mostly camps. And I've had the occasion on maybe 3, 4 jobs where I had to be on the water, to see the substructure, you know, to get below them.
Wow.
I've had that in actual work. One of those jobs ended up in court. It was a famous old restaurant in New Orleans that was on Lake Pontchartrain. It's all gone now. But the adjuster I was with actually brought a canoe or something, and we paddled out, got under it. When I saw it was under the structure, and I used to go to this restaurant as a kid, my parents would take me, and later as an adult, it was scary. I actually wrote a report and condemned it. I said, this is not repairable. This structure can't be safely repaired. You know, it's gone. You know, and at that time it was probably over 70 years, maybe 80 years older, you know.
Yeah.
So did they tear it down or what?
Yeah, it's gone now. It's that area this structure was in is at the discharged end of the so-called 17th Street Avenue Canal that failed one side of it and helped flood New Orleans. Well, at the end of that canal, there was an area called West End, and they had a lot of well-known, famous restaurants and nightclubs, and most were built over the water on wood piles, and they were slowly falling apart, one and two, deterioration, and basically Katrina was the last legs that kind of pretty much wiped the rest of them out. Whatever was left standing, eventually they were torn down. There's still some old piles and things in the area, but it's a great area. I mean, if the city would reinvest in the area, it's a wonderful area, and they've done some things, but it's underutilized.
Well, do you see them reinvesting in the city to make it better, or is it too much money?
Something, you know, where this area is, it's actually split between the city of New Orleans, which is Orleans Parish, it's one and the same, and Jefferson Parish, which is to the west. The boundary line goes right through this area. You know, it literally splits the area. Jefferson Parish is doing some work to revitalize that area, but more to the west. The Coast Guard came in after Katrina, built a station in the same area, big development, put a land jetty out, you know, in a breakwater, and they put a little marina in, and they're also developing to the west of that, the south edge of Lake Pontchartrain, to kind of recreate a wetlands that they actually, I just heard on the news a day ago, they're going to put some breakwaters and jetties where people can go kayaking, canoeing and kayaking, to kind of still the water. Breakwaters, you know, to create some calm water. So there's some development that's being planned, which would be good. Because what it does is when they rebuild the wetlands, it offers a buffer to storms coming in off the lake. There's a levee there, but there's no buffer to waves and storms. And anytime you can build up the land, it absorbs some of that energy and the tidal surges related to storms. That's what the coast of Louisiana is losing. They're losing that wetland and that buffer zone. They say the land loss from subsidence is equivalent to 3 football fields a day. That's the rate of land loss. It's been going on. It's been going on for decades and decades, and local politicians try to appeal to Washington for more federal aid to help. And you know, it's one state out of 50, right? You know, face it, Louisiana has gotten a disproportionate amount of FEMA money, you know, for the last 50 years, right? Because of the exposure and the issues and the flooding. So the politicians here, you know, are telling them that you're going to lose it's going to have major impacts to the oil industry, to the seafood industry, of course, the jobs. And there are a number of people that live in the area that's affected by the land subsidence. Land keeps sinking because we don't rebuild it with the river flooding because we leveed the river. So there's man-made projects to try to redirect river water to rebuild land. And it works to some degree, but there's mixed opinions on how effective that is. And when every time you do that, when you try to rebuild by letting fresh silt-laden water into these marshes, you also kill the oyster crops and you affect the shrimp harvest. And so it affects what the fisheries industry does. So
From what I understand, New Orleans is the location of New Orleans is critical because those barges that we see go behind us, that's as far as the barges can go, and it's as far inland as the cargo ships can go. So
Well,
New Orleans has to be there so they can meet.
Huey P. Long built a bridge across the Mississippi that was too low for the ocean-going ships. The ocean-going ships can get up to Baton Rouge. The barges have no limit.
Right.
But to go from the Gulf of Mexico to get to Baton Rouge, there's 3 to 4 type of river pilots you have to use. The river pilots and there's like 4 segments that you need specialized training just to navigate the boat. And so there's bar pilots that bring it into the mouth of the river. Then there's another pilot. You go from the mouth of the river to like New Orleans, and there's another pilot you got to then switch out with to go from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. So these ocean vessels, the freighters, they can go to Baton Rouge, and then they got to stop because the bridge is too low. So Huey P. Long wanted to create a marine industry and dock for offloading and reloading, and that happens in Baton Rouge. But it's critical for many reasons because of saltwater intrusion issues, major oil pipelines, impacts to the structures that are built, for the conditions they were built for. And the thing is, the land subsidence continues, and it just has a limited effect. And it's going to be like Venice. You know how Venice is a sinking city? Venice, Italy.
Yeah.
They have major impacts. When I was there, they were setting out the walkways, getting ready for the annual flooding that was going to start about a week after we left. And like the St. Mark's Basilica and the huge, quadrangle or courtyard area, all the pigeons, where all the visitors go, huge tourist industry, right? It goes underwater a couple of feet every year. And they put up these movable walkways that tourists have to walk on.
Movable.
But it's a huge issue, and they just everybody and all the states of the country and cities with issues, they're all competing for monies for their projects, for whatever it is that helps their economy, prevents flooding, buffer storms, fight wildfires. Everybody's got something. But the southeast Louisiana, if left alone within 50 to 100 years, it's going to be underwater. New Orleans is like 100 miles from the coastline. A lot of people that don't think it's right on the coast. It's not. Right. But in 50 years, it's going to be on the coast.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be horrific. I mean, to Louisiana.
All underwater, right?
You'll be
y'all are sinking.
It's crazy. It's crazy how much the sinkage is. One of the scientists I worked with at Rimkus and later, this guy Eric Milton, he lives in Metairie, which is 16 miles from me. And a lot of New Orleans was developed over existing swamps that were dry, protected, filled in. They built on them. And so this poor guy, he's been in his home maybe, let's just say 30 years, 25, 30 years. He's on his 3rd driveway. Now his house is a slab on piling, at ground level, right? The slab, it looks like it's at the ground. But the ground where he lives, just his lot, continues to sink. He's had to rebuild his driveway from the curb into his carport, probably about 25, 30 feet, 3 times, because that driveway, he's had settlement since the last time. He said he's had settlement of 18 inches of the sidewalk that wraps around his carport. And he said he rebuilt that 10 years ago.
So
almost 2 inches a year, his yard sinks in that area.
Is the street in front of him sinking like that too?
It probably is.
But it's not noticeable because it's not next to the house.
Right.
So then what about his house? Is it sinking?
No,
the house is
on
stable.
Piles that go down 30 feet or more. But some houses do settle because as the ground slowly pulls down, it pulls on that piling. And so let's say the ground settles a foot under your house. It may cause some of the piling, it doesn't do it evenly. It may cause it to settle 2 inches. So you can go in a pile supported house that's subject to that kind of sinking ground. And the ones that do sink, generally it becomes bowl shaped. It's lower in the middle. Now if you have a house without piling, like in Texas or other places, when you don't have piling in their settlement, it's just the opposite. The slab becomes kind of hog back. It's high in the center, low in the edges. House with pilings, it's low in the center and high in the edges. Again, it's all kind of variants of that, but that's generally how it happens. But I was talking with this guy this past week. He's cancer free. He's been undergoing cancer treatments over the last 10 years or more. So yeah, and so I was telling him I would just put in basically a gravel driveway and add gravel. The problem is when you put anything on sinking soil, you're adding weight, and the added weight hastens the problem, worsens the problem. Because he's probably got a 2 foot or more gap under his slab. And I said, look, you need to create a barrier on the edge of your slab, and don't put any sand under there, because you got contractors say you need to blow sand under there to cover the piling up, or else they're going to rot. I said, they're going to rot anyway, whether you cover them or not. They will eventually, the tops. And I said, no, you don't want to add sand. It aggravates the problem. It speeds up the settlement. I said, you need to create a barrier, build your yard up to look nice, but you got to have a barrier between the slab and your fill you're going to put in your yard. Otherwise, the fill just washes under the house when it rains. But your driveway, I said, we built a fellowship, Paul, and it's sitting on big, giant styrofoam blocks because they wanted a certain elevation, for flood reasons, right? And to get up there, you don't want to pile a bunch of soil that weighs 100 pounds a cubic foot. That's just to fill up space. So what this designer designed was these big styrofoam blocks that are made for this purpose, and stacked them where they act like forms for grade beams, and then put a form on the outside, poured the concrete with the steel in it. And so you have like crisscross grade beams, and you have styrofoam that gives you the elevation. And once the concrete cures, you got a big, like an upside down, shell,
Hey, I was thinking like a insulated concrete house, except upside down.
Yeah, except in the foam insulates you, but that's not the primary purpose.
I know.
The primary purpose was not to add 3 feet of soil that adds weight. Adds for every foot of height, that's 100 pounds in a cubic foot. So you don't want to add that weight, which is going to cause the ground below it to want to sink some. Even though the land where I am it's much better than where Eric lives, my friend lives. It's still, you're fighting adding weight to fight settlement, and the fellowship ball is not on piling. If you can eliminate the piling, you can eliminate 15 to 25% of the cost of the building.
Well, it sounds like it would it would almost be floating, but it's not floating on water. It's floating on the soil.
That's really a misnomer. A floating slab is like,
that's what we have here. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, you have a seal slab that floats on top of the soil,
right.
But a true floating slab is when you excavate earth, and let's say you excavated, 500 pounds of earth per cubic foot. Well, you can put a slab on that. If it doesn't weigh more than 500 pounds for that area, that cubic foot area, then it's considered, the soil below it just sees the same weight it saw before it, pre-consolidation and all that kind of, the consolidation history of the soil. If you don't put more weight on soil than it ever saw in its past, it's not going to settle on you from the weight that you had. That's really the concept of a floating slab.
Right.
The soil you remove and the concrete you put in its place, they weigh the same, or the concrete weighs less. You don't want to exceed the weight. Anyway, they really don't build things that way here. Here we got to build structural slabs.
All right.
Well,
settlement issues.
Well, I'm worried about Jimbo and the water washing out out there under the river.
with that drain pipe and that riverbank creeping toward them. Huh?
Yeah, I think I've got that part under control. I believe eventually this house will be in the river, but it's going to be way past my
I hope
lifetime.
you're not in the cutting side of the river.
It's pretty straight right here.
So then won't Nick be under the, won't him sink and be underwater?
If he loses his backyard, or me.
Yeah, you. And
I've got neighbors that have had to have foundation work done. That's because my neighbor next door is because the first owner planted 2 live oak trees in his front yard, 15 feet from his house. And they were little saplings when he planted them, and now they're towering oak trees. And the roots suck the moisture out the soil, and it makes it settle. And so the front of my neighbor's house started tipping down.
Yeah.
Cracking the walls. And they went through 3 rounds of, actually the prior owner repaired it, sold the house, and the current neighbor, who's like the 3rd owner, they had to go through 2 rounds of foundation repair.
I wish I had a camera that I could move easily. My neighbor, I'm looking at it over here behind my storage shed, and it's probably 50 feet away. There's an oak tree there that's got the trunk is 6 foot diameter.
Oh,
it's huge.
Yeah, it is huge.
Yeah.
It's a huge tree, yeah. But anyway, yeah, trees are culprits of that too. But anyway, yeah, Southeast Louisiana has major issues with ground settlement, and they're trying to rebuild the land in different ways, and some of it's successful, but I don't know. One local geologist, he's passed away. He said it's more than just soft ground sinking. He said there's faults in the Earth's crust in this area, and he said they're just slipping. Some of them are just slipping. He said the rate of settlement is so fast on a geologic time scale. He goes, this is faults that are slipping. He said that's what made the major part of it is. He says you can do all the land building you want. He says you're never gonna
then Nick,
overcome it.
Will you be underwater eventually?
100 years from now?
Yeah, whenever.
I think I'm actually on the east bank of the river. Although if you look at the way the river runs, I'm like grid north. I'm grid north of the river. So the west bank across the river for me would be more likely to be underwater before I would be.
What about the ocean?
Well, the Gulf of Mexico is what I'm talking about. Yeah.
That's 90 miles away.
No concept of it.
Look at a map.
And hey, I think in my mind you've got the same river there that we do here. They just named it wrong.
They're connected for sure, except
this is where most of the water comes from right here.
How wide is that across?
It's 7/10 of a mile.
Yeah, well, mine is over a mile.
I know. Where they meet at Cairo, Illinois.
That's big for you.
The typical water flow from the Ohio is twice what the water flow is from the Mississippi, from the north. So it's the Ohio River. The Mississippi joins into the Ohio. They just named it wrong in the south.
Yeah.
This is most of the water right here.
Yeah, there's no way your flow exceeds what goes through New Orleans.
I know it's not, but where they meet in Illinois and Missouri, and Kentucky, Illinois, Missouri, right, where they meet, the Ohio is twice the river the Mississippi is. So it should have been the Ohio River. They just
whatever.
They named it the Mississippi because they found it down there first. They probably didn't know they connected.
Because the Native Americans that lived there had a name.
Yeah.
Mississippi, right?
Yeah, they'd never been to Ohio.
Mississippi is Southern talk.
Yeah. Ohio. Well, this has been really nice, real good talk. We need to go spend more of our kids' inheritance.
I planned. Southwest 2 days ago had a 50% off sale.
Who did?
Southwest Airlines.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it.
They had like a 2 or 3 day period. They had a 50% off sale. So my wife, jumped right on top of that one. And so we're actually planned a trip in September to Niagara Falls.
Oh, good. We one time when we were younger, we had the motorcycle. I told Kim one morning, I got up, I thought about it overnight, and on Saturday morning I said, pack an overnight bag. We're going on a bike trip, and didn't tell her where. And it's I think it's not 600. It wasn't that far. It's probably 500 miles or so from here to Niagara Falls. And okay. Got on a motorcycle and rode up there on Saturday, watched the water going over, got a motel, and then rode back the next day.
Just an overnight, huh?
You know, I used to do that when I had a motorcycle. I used to do that kind of stuff all the time.
You could do that, huh?
Yeah, I used to.
What's interesting about this area too is a while back I kind of did just a search out of curiosity, and about a half an hour from where we're going, there's a restaurant in Lockport, New York, and the name of it is an Italian restaurant, is Camaradas.
Is it really?
Yeah, spelled the same way I spelled mine.
Well, you're gonna need to go in there and I see Michael's kids. Hi guys.
There you go. There's little Michael.
Little Michael.
Somebody's got a scout meeting.
Yeah, they're going to the pet store to raise money.
Cool.
Hey, Michael, you live near Dunedin. What's the name of that town? Dunedin or something like that?
Dunedin. Yeah, Dunedin.
Yeah, we're the place where I don't know if you caught that. We're going to snowbird this winter, and there's a place called Holiday RV Park.
Oh, yeah.
Not far from there.
Yeah, man, that's like I could ride my bike to you.
Well, we're going to be neighbors for a month. We're going to be neighbors for a month this winter. We'll be staying over.
Very cool.
Hey, yeah. Michael, is that Dunedin, Florida?
Yes. I'm in Florida right now.
I think y'all were talking at the same time. I didn't hear either one of you.
Is that Dunedin, Florida then?
Yep. Yep.
Well, we used to go to Dunedin Beach, Honeymoon Beach. We had a good friend that lived at Tarpon Springs.
Nice. Yep.
Love that area.
Honeymoon Beach. Oh, baby.
Now, are you in Florida or Georgia? Michael, are you in Georgia or Florida right now?
Georgia.
Georgia, okay. Michael has two places.
Ah.
Do you have is it a little farm you have there, Michael?
Yeah, it's I'll show you the house.
I kind of see that behind you.
Let's see, hold on.
That's the color of the siding my daughter just put on her house.
It's 100-year-old. Let's see, let me get the front here.
Cool.
But it's got a real old-timey septic system that just kind of runs out into the ditch over there.
That's pretty old-timey.
Working on some new vents in the crawl space. But
so how much land are you on? Just
5 acres.
Cool.
Yeah, got a little vegetable garden on part of it. I planted some apple trees. Oh, somebody's spinning out.
Heard that.
I don't know if that was there or here. It might have been here. It might have been there. I don't know.
Yeah, it was there.
It was there? Okay.
Yeah, I heard it.
I've been picking tomatoes off my plants. They're coming in.
But it's warmer down there for you. All I have is blues.
Yeah. Yeah, we start early. You can plant tomato plants in February here. February and early March.
Yeah.
Heck, the azalea bushes bloom in February.
Well, I started to say a while ago, I need to go spend my kids' inheritance. We need to. We've picked out what kayaks we're going to buy, but they're in Florence. That's Cincinnati area.
Are you gonna be sitting on top type or sitting inside?
Well, our research tells us that for old people with arthritis, the sitting on top kinds are a lot easier to deal with, especially if you turn over out in the water. At least you can get back on top of one of those.
They'll float.
Yeah, because they float. The other one's going to fill up with water.
Yeah, I gotta sit inside one.
You ever turned it over?
Yeah, getting out of it. One of the first or second times I used it, it's not real stable when you try to get in and out.
Yeah.
But it's a fishing kayak. You know, I paddle it. It's not a pedal type. Just it's a 10-foot, and I bought it because it weighs 44 pounds. I can carry that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the ones you getting?
It's 53 pounds. It's 10 foot. It's 53 pounds.
That's not too bad.
Well, I watched a video and I saw a guy it had fishing tackle and a cooler and all kinds of stuff strapped to it. And he picked it up out of the back of his truck and carried it to the water. And I thought, well, okay, he doesn't look that much smaller than me. So
I got a canoe that's made with PVC. It's 16 feet and it's a booger. I mean, it's too heavy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you make it?
No, my wife bought it years ago without checking with me first.
Oops.
She thought she was doing a good thing. I haven't had it in the water much, but my daughter did go paddle with me one time. She told me years later she felt sorry for me, so that's why she went.
Do you use your kayak much?
No, not really, but I'm planning to. Like I said, my plan is to stop full-time work at the end of August.
Yeah. So you're letting people know that now?
I'm telling more people, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, it's probably news to Michael, I guess.
I don't know. I think I told Michael.
No, we talked about it some.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was looking for advice. I was seeking counsel on my options.
Okay, because he's kind of doing the same thing, except he's not really retired.
Well, Michael. You're a 1099 guy with SDII, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, from what Jeff tells me, he does a lot of peer reviews. He says that I have a lot of job security, so I'm sure you would too.
Yeah. Well, I may go totally independent, but I haven't decided.
Yeah, there you go.
I got enough local contacts that I think I can get as much work as I care to get. I think I can. Yeah.
Isn't Jim independent?
No, I'm an employee.
Oh,
I
okay.
have to do that for Kim's health insurance.
Yeah, okay. I thought you were independent.
No, I used to be. 6 years I've been working with this company.
Yeah.
I've been there, right at 6 years, a little over 6 years in March. Yeah. And four more years till Kim is on. I shouldn't say that. It gives away her age. Yeah. But I have to work 4 more years.
Yeah.
Hey, I know how old she is. She said make it me.
Yeah.
One of my former pastors, who's a female, she's still a pastor with Methodist Church over in Sulphur, Louisiana. She moved to Sulphur like 2 months before Hurricane Laura came through. Sulphur is right next to Lake Charles, and they got smacked too. Anyway, there's 20 years between her and her older husband.
Well,
that's big.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. I stayed with him Monday night because they have a room instead of me chasing a hotel. I'm like, look, if I can get you guys a few bucks and for the inconvenience, they're like, you can stay here anytime you want.
Yeah.
They virtually have given me a key to their house. They said, anytime you need to come and stay, you got your room. Great people, but they have 20 years, so that's a big one.
Well, I think when this has been such a good discussion. When I put it on the YouTube channel, I'm going to leave everything on here. I'm not going to not going to edit anything. So I don't think anybody said anything that's incriminatory.
I hope not.
Yeah. Nick, there have been a few times you've said something about work issues that I had to cut out.
Yeah.
I know the one when I was down at the abortion mill that morning. You had said something in there about a work thing that I had to get in and cut that thing out. But I don't think we did any of that today, so I'm just going to leave it on. It's real long. This is the longest meeting we've had, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, but I think I'll leave it on because there's been some good talk, and some of the other guys might want to hear some of that. But I'm going to go because
all right,
we need to go spend our money on our kids' inheritance, and so they can't have that. Yep. They can sell those kayaks at a yard sale for $50.
Oh no, it'll be more than that.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, been good.
Hey,
all right,
thanks, man.
Stay safe from those storms that are coming your way.
I think they've gone past us now.
Yeah, I think the one from the south is coming in the next day or so.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all later.
Okay. All right. Later, Paul.
Go Tigers, Greg.
Roll Tide, baby. Roll Tide.
Bye.